Anthony Davis injuring his groin back in Game 4 of the Lakers' first-round series against the Suns, which caused him to miss Game 5 and limited him to just over 5 minutes in Game 6. James Harden and Kyrie Irving have both missed time in the Nets series against the Bucks. Harden has returned. Kyrie remains out for tonight's Game 6. And then yesterday, we unfortunately found out that Kawhi Leonard would miss Game 5 against the Jazz with a right knee sprain, and the Clippers said there is no timetable for his return. Now, as the injuries continue to pile up around the league, hindering several of the major stars in the playoffs, LeBron James went off on social media yesterday with a big "I told you so" rant for the NBA. Here's what he said. "They all didn't want to listen to me about the start of the season. I knew exactly what would happen. I only wanted to protect the well-being of the players, which ultimately is the product and benefit of our game. These injuries just isn't, quote, part of the game. It's the lack of pure rim rest before starting back up. 8, possibly 9 All-Stars have missed playoff games, most in league history. This is the best time of the year for our league, and our fans are missing a ton of our favorite players. It's insane. If there's one person that know about the body and how it works all year round, it's me. I speak for the health of all our players, and I hate to see this many injuries this time of year. Sorry, fans. Wish you guys were seeing all your favorite guys right now." Okay, he had a lot to say, but Hahn, he does make a point. Did the NBA do a disservice to the players by starting them too soon and having that shortened offseason?
No, of course they didn't. Why? Because the union, which LeBron and all the players are a member of, were complicit. They agreed. They signed off on it. It's assumed liability. This is what you knew was going to happen, that it was going to be a short off season. You also had from March until July off as well. Let's not forget about that. Now, some of these injuries we're talking about, I don't know. Some of them you could say, are they conditioning injuries or are they just part of playing basketball? Are they bodies breaking down? I don't know. But I want to know who LeBron was talking to when he said that I told that nobody wanted to listen to me about this. Kawhi Leonard, his injury. The guy load manages all year. People criticize him for getting rest that he needs to get, that he feels he needs to keep himself at optimum levels. Did that work, the rest? So how much do we really want to blame this on them? It's just starting the season when they wanted to start, meaning the players first pushed the idea of starting the season around Martin Luther King Day, which would have been a great day to have the first game of the season in a normal circumstance. But for the league, that would have cost, and the players, it would have cost millions to push it up another month. So it doesn't make sense. So as I go back to it, I say it again, Key, the players assume this liability by agreeing to start when they started. Did they have an option? Probably not, because the clock was ticking, as we know. But you did have, 4 teams got conference finals that got into October, had a short off season. But most of the rest of the league did not. I feel like this is excuse making.
Here we go. I don't think it's excuse making, and I do agree with LeBron that the league probably could have pushed things off. You say they didn't have a choice. That may be true.
Were you willing to give up millions? Millions.
Maybe they didn't have a choice, but you negotiate out of that. The league wouldn't allow them to do so because of the television rights. TV wanted to start when they wanted to start to make the money.
And if not, what was the cost?
Rest.
What was the cost?
The players need to rest. They need to rest up. Yeah, you talk about only the teams in the bubble that made deep playoff runs, and the teams that were not in the bubble or the ones that exit the bubble extremely early, they may have not needed the rest. But marquee teams like the Lakers, they needed that rest. Yes, LeBron James, older, wanted more rest. Because if LeBron decides to load manage, guess what? People go crazy. Oh, load manage. Look at my kids paid. I paid to come see him play. He's not playing. People go nuts. If he has the time to rest up, maybe he plays in some of those games. Kawhi Leonard plays in some of those games. Teams and players like that, but it didn't happen. So now you're looking at certain injuries, and some of the injuries, you say, okay, they're not all soft tissue. But if their legs are tired because they didn't get enough rest, therefore, their ability to do certain things and get out of the way at certain times may not be there because they're forced to continue to play. Kawhi is an example of somebody bumping knees. Okay, or Kyrie, a twisted ankle. But what about the hamstring injuries, the soft tissue injuries, things of that nature that went on throughout the course of the season that forced players to miss time?
James Harden's hamstring injury?
James Harden's hamstring injury.
Well,
what about that?
Do you think that was a result of conditioning?
Well, it
Do
could
you think
be.
that was a result of lack of rest?
It could be.
Or lack of something else?
It could be. We don't know.
The guy was getting his jersey retired in a club instead of getting ready for the Rockets.
He looked one way in Houston and another way with the Nets.
He did, didn't he?
As he rested up.
I mean, he took off the fat suit once he showed up. I don't know if the Brooklyn Nets uniform is slimming. It might be. I don't know.
It's black. Of course it is.
Maybe black is slimming, but he looked a lot different once he got to Brooklyn. But still, it was pretty well known in Houston when he showed up for camp and when he showed up actually to play. He didn't really show up for camp. When he showed up, he wasn't in shape. He had to play himself into shape. And you got to know this. You can't play yourself into shape at that level. It's going to cause injuries. So, yeah, you know, if you want to. And how about LeBron, your guy? I mean, LeBron James' injury was a freak accident.
Well, he had a couple of injuries. That one
was an awkward hustle play that somebody rolled up on him. That wasn't a conditioning injury.
That one there,
he was playing
rolled up on him.
At the highest level. He was an MVP candidate when he got hurt.
There's an AD injury on the groin. He came down.
You're giving me Anthony Davis.
He came down.
I mean, I don't have enough pages here of his injury history, and you're going to give me Anthony Davis as an example?
Anthony Davis. Because it was a groin injury. It wasn't a knee. It wasn't an ankle. It was a groin injury.
It's all connected. You can't give me Anthony Davis as an example.
Why?
If LeBron broke down, there's a guy that never breaks down. His best ability is his durability.
McCollum missed time during the season. McCollum missed time during the season. You're going to have, if you're not resting up properly, you're going to have certain injuries that will come. There's no question about it. Science says it. They need proper time off.
Yes.
There's no question. And I think the NBA should push the season back again and move it into maybe November.
Okay, so you're ready to put more money into escrow?
So is that the solution you would come up with, what they need to do for the upcoming season?
Yes.
When?
I think
when? How are you getting 82 games in?
I think November.
And so is it just a continuous cycle of pushing back because
when does it end?
At what point does it stabilize again?
I think you find a permanent solution, which is pushing it back maybe to the end of November. So you're not running up. Your meat of your season is not running up against the NBA. I mean, against the NFL also.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.